Good evening. Today we pick up where we left off last week. Raphael the Raven's Castle. Congratulations, Ruin, on being first. And thank you for the head pats. Mistakes have been made. Well, that was a symphony of failures. I like how if you die, that's whatever. But if you lose the kid, it's just straight up game over. Like, they don't even know this kid and they value it more than themselves. That's kind of sad. Yeah, I'm somebody who has like a fair share of like old games that I enjoy, but like there are also definitely like a ton of tropes that are like in older games that I am quite happy to live without. And like brutal deaths that you kind of just have to memorize is something that I'm quite happy to go without. Those two were my own fault. I just mean like in a general sense. I wanted vengeance. Surprisingly brutal. I'm on board. A golden bullet bill. Interesting. I see that the bullet bill in question actually bounces. If you would be so kind as to give me a friend. Oh. I thought I had to jump off of it. Evidently not the case. There's got to be a way up there. Maybe I need to, like, save the ice melon and, like, jump off at their head? You may grab an arrow lift and use it at another location. Ray? No. Well, that was a massacre. Oh no, the poor thing lost its arms. Or wings, rather. Birds don't have arms. Usually. Close enough. Works for me. They appear to be living their best lives. Except for that one. That one star thing was having a time. Okay, Raphael Raven. Let's see what you were up to before the events of Paper Mario 64. You will never enter the Koopa Kingdom. I banish you to forever twinkle in the heavens, be gone. I mean, all things considered, that doesn't sound awful. Oh, he actually just punched me to the moon. Alright. I think I immediately see what has to happen here. Or not? Oh, I guess that's to stomp on it. Oh, rude. Enki. He didn't appreciate that one bit. No, no. Perish. Well, that wasn't too bad. I banish him to forever twinkle in the heavens. That was made by rotating the world and keeping the Yoshi in place. Nice. That is all made to do that sort of thing. I got 50 points. That's a failing grade. Oh well. I still had a green background, so I'm okay. Yay, arson. I imagine that the last, The last world's gonna be like, Bowser's Sky Fleet or something like that. Or we just get straight up teleported to an evil alternate dimension, I guess. Alright. Mildly horrifying, but I'm on board. Scary skeleton Goonies. I need a ROM hack of this game that only makes the child less loud. Oh, thank you for the hydration. Like, I don't even necessarily hate the child crying. I mean, I do, but like, specifically, I just feel like it's a bit too loud compared to like everything else in the game. Which, granted, I guess is true to like real child crying. It's just far, far too loud. Or at least that's how I feel about it. But like on an evolutionary level, like humans have evolved to be completely incapable of disregarding the sound of a child screeching. Just because, generally speaking, if parents could ignore their kids didn't survive. At least back in the olden times. And so it's basically a frequency that just like drills right into the center of your skull and doesn't leave, so you're obligated to like do something about it. That's a thing that I think I learned back when I was studying psychology. Okay, that means that Change Hall's gonna start trying to eat the entire stage. Gotta be careful about that. I'm seeing a bunch of alternate routes I could take. None of that. Alright, you mean. Yeah, sadly, evolution doesn't prod people towards what's best. Evolution prods people towards what works. Like, not saying it's necessarily the case here, but like, there's a really common misconception that like evolution is going somewhere. It really isn't. am kind of getting my tail kicked, but that's okay. Life is an illusion. I continue to perceive my own existence, therefore, no arbitrary number can tell me that I'm not alive. I should have swallowed that one. Oh well. And then Yoshi died in a punji pit. Like, I don't even think that was meant to be like a meaningful obstacle. Another interesting, like, evolution thing is that, generally speaking, you will think that, like, your close family members smell bad. And the result of that is that it makes you less likely to produce offspring with people who are genetically similar to you. Which is generally considered a bad idea when it happens. You're like, hold on, this smells too similar to me, so you're too close to me. So, we shouldn't do anything. A key, excellent. A door, alright. What can I do with this? I had to plant that by moving this over first, I think. Oh well, oh dear. Okay, no bottomless pit, we can work at that. Popping balloons. Pound the ground to pop balloons, find the correct one to win. I do believe I found the correct one. I'm trying to think, are there like any other cool biology or psychology things that I can bring up? Oh, I am missing eggs. Unfortunate. Oh hey, eggs. Mistakes were made. I guess this is technically closer to like a biology thing than a psychology thing, but another thing is your eyes don't smoothly snap from target to target. Your eyes actually snap to a bunch of intermediate points on the way to a target. Like, they don't smoothly glide, they snap, 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 snap until they hit what you're looking at. And those movements are called microsaccades. I had to write an entire paper on microsaccades once. It was really boring and I'd forgotten most of it. I had to click one to win. What are the odds that it's the same as last time? Where? The funny thing is, I would have gotten that if I had just done what I did the first time, instead of trying to go straight for it. Aw. I didn't need that prize anyway. I'm very powerful. Just get rid of that entirely to the best of my ability. Good enough, we take those. This also implies that there were other Yoshis already existing in like this evil hell dimension, and that they understand the concept of the relay. The Cave of the Bandits. Ah, bandits are annoying. And I'm dead. The results screens in this game are way too close to getting graded in a test. They kind of are. It's like you miss one thing and you lose like 20%. It's like, what the heck? How's that fair? Oh, I can kill them. Alright. It just takes a little more violence than average. Luckily, I'm very capable of producing that. I still love how the fireballs in this game are just like uwu. They've got like the uwu face. Oh, he just died. Alright. I suppose the idea here is that, like, these buckets are like their loot stashes. At least I presume that's what it is. I like how they're just straight up Hadokening me. Yes, I kind of need that. Oh, thank you for the rotation. These mice also are making a amount of noise that I'd rather that they weren't. It's actually kind of hurting my ears. Ooh, superstar. Well, that was just rude is what that was. I call shenanigans. Super Mario can bust through everything else, why not a rock? Thank you for the hydration, though. Yeah, there kind of is just no room for leeway here. that's probably the end of me. I did it. Awesome. Didn't actually think I'd pull that one off, but here we are. We were this close to greatness. Oh well. Thank you for the head pats. Beware the spinning logs. You know, knock on wood, but it's looking like I might get this done tonight. Well, that worked out. It is time to become inebriated. Or to avoid it. Oh, it is in fact time. Alright. I think with the bonus from the star ring, that'll get me up to 30. Yeah, there we go. I'm in danger. Wait, what? Okay. Yeah, sure, why not? Just get yeeted. What could go wrong? Okay, that thing felt faster than I thought it would. I thought that there'd be like a bit of ramp and then it would drop. It hit a certain horizontal point and then just like fell. Unfortunate. Oh well. I am now kind of curious what would happen if I went through the left door instead of the right door. Regrettable? Oh well. This is fine. Well, that was almost a terrifying misplay. That one was just me snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Oh. Oh, is it a teleporter maze? I think it is. Interesting. Just pick the right door however many times in a row to get the real prize, is what I presume is going on there. Does it have stuff for 100%? I mean, 100% in this game basically requires you to go back and replay stages, so... it wouldn't be too out of character if it did. Alright, Mythos. Tap, tap the red noses for it. I mean, you have infinite retries of the maze, so like, it wouldn't be unfair for it to be like, hey, go through this however many times. I don't think I'm getting that child back. Yeah, I mean more in the sense of like, this game hides a bunch of secrets in like really weird places, and you're just not going to encounter them in a casual playthrough. You can like have to lick walls, which to be fair is what I do a lot. Yeah, like a teleporter maze is 100% in character for a game like this. What? Okay, sure. And then I died. R.I.P. Yoshi. Now I'm all the way back at the start by the looks of it. Come along, Booze. I wonder if the idea here is that the Boos are like imitating Yoshi's trail of eggs. That'd be kinda cute if so. Yeah, there's something there that's like scooting me off into the middle. Interesting. I presume that the key I seek is entombed within this creature. Running in terror can only delay your execution, not stay it. Okay. Oh, there's some funky visual stuff happening here. Oh, is this a boss rush? Interesting. This is fine. Okay, so I kinda just assumed that that would take me down to where the pipes would go. Evidently, that was a mistaken assumption. Oh well, it is what it is. I need a key for this pipe. Alright. Interesting. I kind of feel like a cork is one of those things you can't really lock, but also, like, I've never done it before, so what do I know? I kind of think that these like rat sounds might be the exact same ones that are used in Link to the Past, just much louder. Oh, thank you for the head pats. I appreciate them. Ever and always. So the way forward is definitely through that locked pipe. So I just gotta find the key in here. There's not actually that much to this place, it's just big. There's a lot of space between points of interest. That's where I came from. There aren't really that many points of interest. I've gotta be missing something, obviously. I don't think I've been this way before. Hey, it's this guy again. Except this time without infinite refills. I only needed one more. Oh well. Good. Thank you very much. What's down here? This goes even further down. Things are unmarked down here. Oh, hey, more eggs. Okay, it literally is just a Sakya for that mid-boss fight. I can work with that. Get uncorked. Okay. We're gonna take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom. Anything that would... Whoops. Anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. I return. Mistakes have been made, potentially. Never mind, I'm unstoppable. That one was a mistake. The first one gave me expectations of myself that I was not able to live up to. Oh, I'm in danger. There we go. Child, please. Go slower, child. Oh, there goes all of my stars. This isn't too bad, I suppose. It's slow, but relatively non-threatening. Yeah, I'm kind of not really, doing anything. Kind of wondering how long this is gonna last. God, imagine if I, like, die and then I have to, like, do this all again. You choose the speed. I'm gonna go faster. Okay, that's better. I'm going to cry. Thank you for the head pats. Ow, my bones. I have been returned to my original form. The one that I started streaming using. This river took so long that I actually aged backwards. I was that close to another starring. Oh well. Oh. This reminds me of the final boss of Mario 3. How did you... Yeah, I never expected you to get this far. Now it's over. Your game ends here. Well, that sure was an encounter. We are approaching the conclusion by the looks of things. The very long cave. Oh no, it's an auto-scroller. I thought that the last thing that I did was very long. Auto-scrollers are a thing that can be done well, but usually aren't. I wonder if I needed that. Like, I think I probably didn't, because I think I would have needed to, like, stand in the lava to get it. Like, imagine if I put it here and there's, like, a hidden thing there. I could totally see this game doing that. Wait, is it, like, doubling back on itself? I think it did. Kinda curious how I only hit the red coin there. I'm not complaining, though. That was the one I wanted to hit. Oh, thank goodness. A ring. We take those. Oh, hey, another ring. And it looks like the auto-scrolling has concluded. Wonderful. Never mind. I had to open my mouth. Rude. Wait, what? What even happened there? didn't even see what got me. It must have, like, caught my feet and, like, brought me back. Oh well. Luckily there was a ring right there. Dark Souls 2 hitbox moment, that explains it. That's kind of what it felt like. Oh, it is what it is. Auto-scrollers suck. I'm just glad to be on the other side of it. I take back what I said earlier, they're not fun. I was thinking of like a segment in like a shooter game where like the deep underground maze. Where like after spending the entire game like strapped for resources and like constantly stressed, an ally rolls up with like a vehicle and it's just like get on the gun. And then you just like go absolutely mental and kill everything. Like that kind of auto-scroller I can get behind. Hi, Boulder. What am I to do about this? Do I actually have to get the rock all the way down here? Kind of insane, if so. Okay, I've at least got that ring. I presume I actually do have to get this all the way. Alright, that wasn't too bad. Once that one fireball wasn't in the equation, that was a lot easier. Now I just gotta remember where to use this. It's probably down here. Can't do anything there. Oh, I need you two to get away from the hole. Thank you kindly. I see now why they called it the maze. What? Actually, what? Oh, okay, I guess. I don't think that was an intended thing that the game wanted to do. I think that was like a bug. Here I may have overshot, but not much I can do about it now. Now, I do notice that there are, like, numbers carved into the walls, but I'm not sure what to do with them. Maybe I have to go through them in a specific order. Oh, thank you for the hydration. That's just a couple of red coins, no big deal. There we go. Now I just gotta get back. Yeah, now I just have to get back up there. So I guess I was in the right place earlier and I just didn't, like, throw the egg right. Alright. Here we go. And I gotta grab the key from down there, which is just annoying. And I gotta go around again. Then we go up and around again. And we are finally free. Wonderful. Ooh, bonus challenge. Been a minute since I did one of those. Oh, thank you for the head tats, I appreciate them. Hey, 14, 4. Nice. Oh boy, slot machine. Unfortunate. Oh well. That one did feel like it was based on timing. I'm back, the one in Mario 3. Gives off the impression— keep moving, this one's called. The one Mario 3 gives off the impression of being like based on timing, but there's actually like a little bit of RNG, so you basically can't actually reliably stop it. Oh hey. This is fine. Well, that wasn't. I was doing so well, too. Oh well. We will try this stage again. Like how it's in all caps. Keep moving. Is it good to be scared of change house? I feel like we all were. Like, it's an enemy that you, for the most part, can't do anything against. Rip. And like, anything that you can't, like, fight back against, you, like... that lack of agency kind of, like, contributes to the sense of fear. Yeah, spikes instantly kill you. Doesn't matter what else you got going on in life. Yeah, like, that's also why, horror games will... oftentimes, like, heavily emphasize, like, how entirely helpless you are against, like, whatever monster's chasing you. Because if they give you a gun and the gun does literally anything against the monster, it completely undermines how terrifying it is. Oh dear. This is fine. Alright, checkpoint. We take those. Interesting backdrop. This is fine. Well, that was just rude is what that was. Although I think that one was technically my fault. I think that wouldn't have fallen on me if I hadn't licked. Oh well. This game does the same thing where if you want to get ready to sprint, you have to like do an attack first. Not looking random things is a good lesson. I refuse. Try this again. There we go. And the platform despawned. Oh dear. This is fine. Except for the part where it isn't. I guess the idea here is that I have to like hold on to the platform the whole time. Basically, I'm back in the auto-scroller again. Oh no. This poor flower is having a panic attack in the background. Ring, wonderful. My progress has been locked in. Oh, superstar, we take those. Perish, all of you. You all suffer under my new powers. Or not. Yeah, Hubu, not gonna lie, you sound an awful lot like a bot. Well, these guys here, these are bandits. They will try to steal the baby. And for some reason, I don't let them. Oh, hey, bonus challenge. Match cards. Okay, luckily for me, I've got a photographic memory. And by a photographic memory, I mean a screenshot key. It's not cheating. I'm basically just doing what anybody could do if they could remember things. I can't remember things inside my head, so I'm just remembering them outside my head, that's all. Excellent, 10 up. Yeah, you would not complain if I had, like, a pencil and paper and I just jotted them down. That's not cheating. Ah. Final stage. King Bowser's Castle, except he's probably also a baby at this point in time. Ooh, helicopter. Hammock in the background. And in the foreground. Hammock was like, hey, fuck that seagull, get its ass. And then it was like, wait, you're not one of ours. It still amuses me the way that Yoshi just sort of like melts into the form of an inanimate object. I need to be more careful about that. This game has like weird momentum sometimes, and very much is the case with the helicopter. And then of course you get touched once, you die instantly. Like a real helicopter? No, real helicopters aren't made out of dinosaurs. We actually covered this in an earlier episode. Like, unironically. Ah, excellent, I'm inside now. Amber? Don't know what 4 is, but here we are. Yeah, not gonna lie, you really are sounding like a bot. No, that's the same line. I didn't ban them right away because I wanted to give them a chance to say something about it. Yeah, this is looking like a nursery. Or like Baby Bowser. Perish. Almost. Also, even if that is like a real person, you shouldn't be chatting in somebody's stream while driving. That's hideously unsafe. I know it's not a person, I'm just kind of being silly. I'm just saying, like, wait, there are holes in your story. Either you're a pot or you're kind of an asshole. Also, yeah, like, there is no reason to demand that I add you on Discord. So fun fact, if you're streaming, there's literally a button called shield mode that you can click. And it like heavily restricts anybody who has like just joined the stream. Meant to like stop like a negative rating. If they did have a squad to roll up with, it'd be kind of fun to get to click that. You are not welcome here. Yoshi, please head over the baby. Oh dear, what to do? Young Master Bowser wakes. God, like it's too noisy in here. I want to go sweepy by. Huh? What kind of queen donkey is that? Looks like fun. Me want a wide. Mine, mine. Hey, what can I do about this thing? Do I just wait until he tires himself out? And then I rotated. Thank you for the rotation. I am kind of genuinely wondering what I'm supposed to do here, though. Because, like, hitting the kid seems like the obvious solution. I don't have any eggs, and I don't see a way to get more eggs. Unless, like I say, I'm meant to, like, tire him out, or if I'm meant to, like, pull a Mario 3 and have him, like, break through his own floor. Maybe I do just have to let him ride me. Like, just give him what he wants. Okay, that was a thing, apparently. What? Not sure how I accomplished what I just accomplished, but here we are. Did I have to, like, knock him into his own shockwave? Oh, I can do my own shockwaves. Okay, that makes this a million times easier. Mlem. Yoshi, why'd you do this? Young master, let me help you. Here. My tongue's just on him. And now he's large. Oh, it's the classic Bowser sprite. Nice. Very large baby. Very foul-tempered. Okay, I gotta throw this into the background. Alright. I presume I have to hit him in his open mouth? Close enough. I also think it's kind of cool how Yoshi seems to have like a unique sprite for fighting Bowser, like looking into the background. Right in the schnoz. I wonder if the Yoshi that I currently am, being a green Yoshi, is like indicative of this being like the Yoshi that Mario's friends with. Get bonked. They reused this exact fight a million times after. I've literally never done this fight before. Granted, I haven't played that many like spin-off Mario games. Every Yoshi game? Got it. This is the first Yoshi game I've ever played. And he's dead. Perish, child. Thank you for the headphones. How dare you? It's not fair. You're such a meanie. Someday we'll be back. You'll see. Where? Literally flies to the moon. Oh, thank you for the hydration. Oh, they kidnapped the stork. Can we send this one back? I want a refund. Thus, due to the marvelous teamwork of the Yoshi clan, the twins, who look nothing alike, are reunited. The captured stork is freed by Yoshi, and sets about his duty and finally makes the long-awaited delivery. Thank you, Yoshi. The twins will meet the parents soon. Yeah, she's just like, excellent, new territory for the Empire. Did Yoshi just blow up? Yeah, Yoshi just suicide bombed Bowser's castle. This entire game was a holy war. One-sided. And now the stork is once again flying. You know, you would think that, like, Kamek would just... You would think that Kamek would just, like, hide just off-screen. Or like Yoshi to give the babies back to the stork, and then just gank the stork a second time. Because, like, we've established that, like, Kamek is the one that did this. Kamek is the threat to the stork. Kamek was not at all incapacitated during the events of this game. Kamek could have just ganked the stork a second time, and then the babies would not have been over top of Yoshi's Island. Yeah, the turtles have been eradicated. We no longer have to, like, throw, like, six-pack, like, rings into the ocean without cutting them. The turtles are gone. Yeah. Like, the entire Yoshi clan, like, goes through, like, hell and high water to, like, deliver Mario. And then, like, in Mario games, he's just like, ah, yes, I will sacrifice you for a foot of extra height. Basically, everybody in this setting is a sociopath. Except, like, some of the teammates in the Paper Mario games, that's about it. I've never played a Mario Tennis game, so I'm not sure what you're referencing. I do think this game makes, like, a really interesting contrast with, like, the original Super Mario World. Like, it's not got as many levels, not even close, but, like, there's definitely a lot more, like, depth to the mechanics. I'm not sure if it's entirely endeared itself to me, but, like, I definitely see why people like this game. Looks like they've arrived where Mom and Dad live. So wait, were Mario and Luigi born to, like, a pair of completely ordinary toads? Is that the implication here? If Luigi wins the cup, Mario hands him the trophy, but steps on his foot intentionally and painfully. Yeah, so basically everybody's a sociopath. Heroes are born. Luigi's hat is covered in blood splatters, presumably. The end. Like, I suspect that this is one of those moments where, like, if I was playing it on a CRT, those pixels would, like, bleed together and produce, like, a nice gradient. But because I can make everyone out, it just looks like he's got bloodstains on his hat. But yeah, that was Yoshi's Island. Thank you all so much for joining me. I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is going to be on Friday. The game is going to be Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Thank you for the head pats. I have yet to decide what I'm going to be doing next Wednesday. So I guess stay tuned. Follow if you haven't already. Yeah, either way, thank you so much for joining me. I always appreciate it. Let's find somebody to raid. Let's see here. Let's raid somebody in the same category. I see somebody whose icon is a whooper, so I'm gonna go with them. Alright, thank you so much for joining me. I always appreciate it. Have a wonderful night.